All right. Welcome to Toilets to Bills podcast. This is episode number 16. I am your host, John Sheps. The gang is all here. We've been rolling pretty strong with the whole gang the last few episodes. I got my boy Nate, got my boy Justin, and we got a returning guest tonight, Shane Hallam. These cats, before I introduce them, I want you to know you can follow everybody, including myself, on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Coach Sheps. Justin's on Twitter at JustinFF_. Nate's on Twitter at Nate_Dirt19. And then we got Shane at Shane P. Hallam. Boys, how's everybody doing this evening?
Awesome. I had another tennis match with the son. He rocked out another win, so we're on a roll.
4-0?
No, we didn't do so well in conference, but so if you count the two conference matches, I believe he is 5-1 now.
So your son's rolling with tennis, and Nate is rolling with Nate. You built a fireplace over the last 3 days. You started with a pebble, and you showed us pictures steadily. You started with a pebble, and now all of a sudden you have a phenomenal looking fireplace. How'd that go?
Oh, thank you. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, my dad and I did it, and I think it turned out really well. And like I said, I'm very, very happy with it. So.
All right, so we each got individual accomplishments, but I think a big accomplishment now, if you look at Shane, and if you're watching on YouTube, it says legendary college football analyzing wizard. I don't think, big ups to Justin's son, and big ups to Nate, but, and big ups to myself for just killing a 14-team draft, but we don't really hold a candle to a legendary college football analyzing wizard like Shane Hallam. Shane, how we doing?
I'm good. That's high praise. I don't know. Hopefully I can match that. But no, it's a pleasure to be here. I enjoy the show. I love coming on, and it's fun to throw it back a little bit.
Now, throwing it back, you're wearing a Dan Marino jersey right now, so you're definitely throwing it back. We got Justin wearing a Peyton Manning jersey, and then we got Nate wearing Johnny Manziel. Those are all throwbacks. I'm wearing Jalen Smith because Jalen Smith might win defensive MVP this year. He might, or I just put money on Darius Leonard, actually. I think it was like plus 2,300, so I'm pretty happy with that. But did you listen last week, Shane?
What's that?
Did you listen to the show last week?
Maybe. I may have.
We did the cartoon mock or the cartoon draft. Did you listen to that?
Oh, I guess not. No.
All right. I'll send you because I was going to get your analysis on it, but I'll send that to you later. And then you could tell me, just for bragging rights, which one of us won. But all right, before we keep going, I want everybody to know how you can listen to us. As always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. You could find us on Podbean. You could find us on Spotify, Periscope. And actually, if you're viewing us right now, you know that you can find us on YouTube. But if you're not viewing us, you could check out us on YouTube, because last week we were talking about our Frankenstein background, and Justin was actually able to pull it up. So it's a benefit of watching us on YouTube, and you can also see us in our jerseys. And also remember, everybody, if you give us a follow on Twitter, every 50 followers helps us out and helps somebody else out. We're donating. We're up to $40 right now. We're going to keep it rolling. We're going to donate it to a charity of our choosing. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and go ahead on Twitter and give us a follow there. We really appreciate that. All right, guys, we got some big news this week. All right, big news the last few days. Shane, I want to get your thoughts because we're going to talk about college football tonight. I don't know if I introed that correctly. We're going to talk Heisman Trophy odds. We're going to talk guys that are draft eligible that are playing this year, and we're going to talk guys that are opted out that are draft eligible. So we're going to hit on all that, especially since we have college football coming up this week or this coming weekend. So I wanted to make sure we got you prepped, and this is the guy to prep us for that. But before we hit college football, Shane, Leonard Fournette got released, and within the last hour or so, there were some buzz that the Chiefs were interested at the right cost. But what are your thoughts on, Fournette being released, the Jaguars' backfield situation, and where do you think he might go? And then I'll let Justin and Nate chime in.
Yeah, I'm definitely. It was surprising, right? I didn't expect him to get outright dropped. I think if you're the Jaguars, I thought, well, if they'll keep him, they'll use him up and kind of spit him out. So I think that's that's probably what I expected. But I think moving forward, after they released them, I think they're going to. It really feels like the tank job, right? I mean, how else are you just going to trot out Raquel Armstead and Chris Thompson and James Robinson and expect? Dude, I don't think they're going to sign a Devonta Freeman. Like I think they're going to go with what they have, and that's kind of it. So it kind of feels that way to me for them.
Zigbo.
Let's not go too far. But one of those guys is probably going to get cut. So, we'll see. Either way, none of those players are very good, and so I think ultimately that hurts this offense a lot, which is a problem. It definitely makes me fear. Maybe it'll be good for Gardner Minshew and DJ Chark in the passing game. They're just going to have to throw it a ton, but I think Fournette still has some value. I mean, if he ends up with the Chiefs. I know that would hurt everyone who's Clyde Edwards-Helaire crazy here, but I think that would be great I think you lose maybe a couple rounds of value of ADP, but then he ends up in the Latavius Murray kind of tier, and I think that's great. I think that would be a great landing spot. I could see if the Buccaneers are really unhappy with Ronald Jones and LaShawn McCoy and that group, maybe he comes in there. I think that's a possibility, and I think the odds were on the Bears. With the Montgomery injury could be interesting. So, it could happen. I think what's going to determine where he goes and when he goes is price. If he's willing to sign for veteran minimum, he'll be signed within a week. If he wants $2-3 million, I think it's going to take a couple weeks, maybe into the season.
Yeah, I thought I could see him. Tampa was the first team I thought of. Chicago, Pittsburgh, just because that physical style. Same with Seattle. Pittsburgh and Seattle, he kind of embodies what you think of a running back for one of those teams. But Justin, what are your thoughts on the Leonard Fournette situation?
Well, my thoughts are much like last year after taking Andrew Luck and then him retiring literally the next round. I took Leonard Fournette the night before he got cut as my RB2. It was a very RB-heavy league, and only like 2 wide receivers had gone, and it was the end of the second round. So I was confident in having him as my RB2 in a very heavy RB league. And then now I'm hearing guys that I respect, like Shane, tell me that he has the potential of maybe having a Latavius Murray value. That doesn't sound very good when you took him in the second round. But
well, that actually might tie into the next news we're going to talk about, Latavius Murray value, because that could be Latavius Murray value. It could fluctuate or could change drastically within the next few weeks.
Now, Shane also mentioned something about Chicago. My RB3 in that league is David Montgomery. So it just keeps getting worse. But I'm kind of hoping that New England will find a way to make this happen. I think that might be a good spot for him as well. I'd like to see him in New England and go from there. But, I mean, he'll land somewhere. I mean, it is what it is. It's fantasy.
All right. Nate, do you have any thoughts that nobody already said?
Well, I do. I would rather him not be in my division with my Packers up in Chicago. And, it is what it is if he is. But I read too somewhere something about the Rams. I know him and Jalen Ramsey are still buddies, which really, I mean, not like he's signing the guy, but I saw something where he may be, wanting to play out there. I don't know how many shares of Henderson or Akers or really any of the guys in that backfield, so I wouldn't really care if he went out there. But I was pretty happy that I took Jonathan Taylor instead of Fournette Sunday night in my last draft I did. So it worked out for me, even though I'm a big Leonard Fournette guy.
All right. So now I kind of teased it. Alvin Kamara is holding out. It seems like there's a few things being thrown out there. He's holding out. He wants Christian McCaffrey money. The Saints look like they're willing to pay him closer to Mixon money, that's another thing we're going to talk about, which is he was at 4 years, $48 million. And then I don't know if it's BS, but now we're hearing that, the Saints are willing to trade him, and then we're hearing that Kamara doesn't want to be traded. So it seems like there's a lot of things being thrown out there, but it's all happened quickly. Like this stuff, Leonard Fournette was yesterday. Kamara was in the last few hours. So, Justin, what are your thoughts on Alvin Kamara holding out?
I really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think they'll get a deal done before the season starts. I think that that post that I read earlier, where he's been in the building all this time, they're working out a deal. Maybe it could be smoke, but I feel strongly that they're trying to keep the story under wraps as much as possible. Because I mean, think about it. Like, how often does a player miss practice 3 days in a row and we don't hear about it? Like, they didn't want it to be a big deal for a reason, because I think everybody knows they're going to get something done. So I'm not too concerned about the Kamara stuff.
All right. Shane, do you have any thoughts on the Kamara news, not news situation?
I'm with Justin. I think it's a bunch of nothing, honestly. I think that, Kamara probably didn't want to practice, and because they're negotiating this contract. And if you read the trade rumor, it wasn't like the Saints are saying this, right? It was some person in the organization. If the price is right, we're willing to trade him. I think it was a setup. Not that they wouldn't, but I think it was a setup to get Kamara to take less money, right? I put this out on Twitter that there's not a better situation for him than the New Orleans Saints. So you either take less money, or we'll trade you to the Jaguars. We'll trade you to a wasteland, and you'll see how much money you'll make in a year, right? And so I think it's just a negotiating ploy. I'm with Justin. I think it's going to get done very soon. It looks like Kamara's going to be back in practice tomorrow, and everything's blown over. So I think it's just a one-day thing. I don't expect anything to change there.
Okay, Nate, any thoughts?
I'm with those guys. Like I said, just try to drive his price down, probably.
I hear that. I hope he just seems like a sane. And off the top of my head, I can't think of it. For some reason, I see Raiders. Even though it'd be very Raiders to me to trade away Khalil Mack and not value that position, but then to draft Lynn Bowden, to already have Josh Jacobs, and then trade for Alvin Kamara. Just for some reason, that's popping into my head. So if you're a Raiders fan and you're listening to this, I apologize. My head's a little cuckoo. So that's all it is. Speaking of Raiders, this is another tie-in, man. This is just working like that this evening. Tyrell Williams heads to the IR, and it seems like Bryan Edwards, there's been a lot of buzz, like steadily picking up in Oakland this offseason, that he's killing it. So Bryan Edwards, Hunter Renfrow, and Henry Ruggs. It looks like those three are going to start, and all of them, I think, should do decent. I don't think I think maybe Edwards is the most likely right now to lead the bunch, but I think Renfrow is going to do very well. And I think Ruggs is going to have up and down weeks, probably similar to Hollywood Brown last year, maybe somewhere between Mecole Hardman and Hollywood Brown. But I definitely think Renfrow is going to be, a possible flex play. He just, he ran a route the other day that messed Prince Amukamara up so bad. Go on Twitter, look up Hunter Renfrow and Prince Amukamara. He shook him on like a 12-yard comeback, and he comes like 4 yards back into the screen, and Prince Amukamara just disappears. Like and then he got cut the next day. So he got shook into oblivion. And what do you guys think? Shane, what do you think of the Tyrell Williams to the IR situation and those three running backs I mentioned?
I think I think we needed Tyrell Williams to kind of go to IR just to open this up, right? Like it almost seems serendipitous, because he's the least talented of the four, and we just needed him to get out of the way for these guys. Like if Bryan Edwards hadn't broken his foot, he'd probably be on the Cincinnati Bengals right now. I think at pick 33. I think he would have gone ahead of T. Higgins, ahead of Michael Pittman. I think the breaking of his foot is what got him here. And I'm excited to see what he can do. I think if the only issue I have is I'm just not sure if Derek Carr can support all three of these receivers. And as you have in the Chiron below the impact on Darren Waller, right, to support him too. I don't know if Derek Carr's good enough for that, if they're going to pass enough for that. So I almost kind of, definitely want to leave Ruggs aside. I'm not taking him anywhere. You might get a big play here and there, maybe good. I think Renfrow will need passing volume. He'll need, target volume. I think Edwards could really be that guy. And I think Waller's going to have to take a step back if they're going to use these players. And I think we're going to have some weeks, though, that the Raiders offense is going to stink. And that's going to be a problem, too. So I don't know. I feel like sometimes we're getting a little too excited about the Las Vegas Raiders, and maybe that's not a team and offense you should get too excited about.
All right. Justin or Nate, any of you guys have any opinion on this Raiders situation here?
Go ahead, Justin.
I was going to say, I think the only consistent sure bet here for me is Darren Waller. That's why I added that little bit to the bottom there. Is I think this only continues to solidify that he's going to be the main target. And now hopefully he might be able to get some of those red zone opportunities, because if we remember correctly, Tyrell Williams, especially at the beginning of the season, dude was getting like a touchdown every single game, and that was his relevance. But so hopefully he'll get some more red zone opportunities instead of getting them all sniped by Moreau there.
All right, and then last bit of news is Joe Mixon. He signed his contract. He had migraines, ankle issues, a few different things going on, and now all of a sudden he's healthy. He's back because he got a healthy contract. So Joe Mixon, if you were nervous about him holding out at all or not being able to play and you dropped him in your rankings, it's okay to move him back to where he was, because he's going to be back on the field and he's going to have a full pocket. So that's the last bit of news. And now let's get into our college football prep. Shane is going to tell us about some draft eligible players at Hoop that will be playing this season that we should be, jotting down their names, trying to catch their games, and looking forward to them, moving on to the NFL next season. So I think the most fun thing to do would be to start with the running backs here, because the running backs, they got the juice. So Shane, the floor is yours.
Look, I think the running back class is really intriguing. I don't think it's great. I don't think it compares to the 2020 class. But I think there is one kind of shining star that went back to school, right? And that's Travis Etienne, the running back out of Clemson. I mean, he's the stud. I think he would have been in the mix for the RB1 had he come out this past season. And to get another season, he's going to play. And we're talking about guys that are going to play this year. Clemson, it just looks like they're going to maybe dominate college football again, and he's going to be a big part of that. 4.3 speed, lightning explosiveness, can catch the football, everything you want. So I think Travis Etienne is going to be a top 3 rookie pick in dynasty drafts, maybe probably top 2 with that. I think there's 2 other guys that are kind of toward that top tier that you're going to hear a lot about. And we have Chuba Hubbard, the running back from Oklahoma State, insanely productive, insanely athletic. I mean, this is a guy that was training to go to the Olympics. So, I mean, he could even get into the 4.2 mark as a running back. That's incredible. I think the production is there. The athletic ability is there. He needs a lot of work on some of the mental aspects. His vision is very poor, and he doesn't really need it in college. I think it'll be a little bit of a problem in the NFL,
especially in that conference.
Right, especially when you talk about the Big 12, right? You don't need it. You really like, they don't play defense. So but he's an excellent pass catcher. I think PPR wise, this is a nice class at the top with these 2, and I think Hubbard in the right situation will be good. And then Najee Harris, the running back from Alabama, another guy, all 3 of these guys went back to school. So we want to see what comes out of them. I'm not quite as high on Najee Harris. He has talent. I mean, he's a big guy. I don't think he's as good as Derrick Henry athletically, but he has kind of that same mold, right? Big, powerful, plays low to the ground. Big chunk of that offense. I mean, held off one of the best running back prospects in the past 10 years in Trey Sanders that went there as a freshman and got hurt. So I don't know if Harris is going to carry the load. I think they might start giving some of these younger backs some work. We might be down a little bit on production. I think he's kind of a one-trick pony in the NFL that you want to be able to catch and all that. So I have him down, but I think he's still going to be a top 50 pick in the NFL draft. And that's going to get you, that draft capital will get you taken high. So I think all 3 of those guys will probably go in the first round of your dynasty rookie drafts next year. And kind of the next 2 guys that I want to talk about, it's all projection. I think after those 3, you're projecting who's going to play this year and who's going to play well to kind of move up. And 2 guys that I really like that may not be at the top of everyone else's board, Journey Brown, the running back for Penn State. We know Penn State can produce running backs, right? Saquon Barkley, we got Miles Sanders, and I thought kind of the next guy up was Ricky Slade, a 5-star running back.
Where did he transfer to, Slade?
He's at Old Dominion this year, so
he followed his running back coach over there, right?
Right.
I said,
so
yeah.
I mean, it's a good spot for him. Like I actually have taken taking him in some college leagues and, hopefully to see what happens. But Journey Brown kind of emerged from the ashes on that team. Another very athletic, very fast 4.35 runner. And I think that's what's going to make him. Now, he kind of blew up late in the season against Minnesota in a big game of top 10 teams, 200 yards, blew up in the bowl game. Not used so much in the passing game. Penn State never does that, right? I mean, Saquon Barkley was so talented they kind of had to. But, Miles Sanders, that was a knock on him. I think that's a knock on Journey Brown as well. He's not a big pass catcher either, but he has that athletic ability. If the Big Ten decides to play, which it seems like they might be leaning to do at some point this fall or winter, then I think Journey Brown's going to be a guy that emerges. And I like Javion Hawkins. That might not be a name that a lot of people know. He's a very, very small running back from Louisville who is dynamic and electric. I mean, I rarely see him get tackled at the first point of contact, and playing in the ACC, playing some good defenses. He racks up yardage, very tough to bring down, very shifty, catches the ball really well. So he's another guy, I think, when we see the ACC play, Louisville's offense, I'll talk about another Louisville guy later, but they have a good offense. They have a really good offense. And I think Javion Hawkins is going to be a player that is really going to be dynamic. And then one sleeper I want to kind of throw in here is Jerome Ford, transfer from Alabama to Cincinnati. And, the American Conference, I think, kind of belongs in the group of five. I think they've established themselves as a really good conference, produces NFL talent, and Cincinnati is toward the top of that. Jerome Ford, high pedigree coming out of high school, just stuck behind the Najee Harrises of the world and decided to transfer there. I think he's a talented running back. He's also bigger, but he's someone who is a good blocker, has solid vision, stays low to the ground, really tough to bring down, churns those legs. I love those kind of guys. So I think there are a couple transfer players this season that have some ability at running back. So I'd say it's kind of a weaker running back class, definitely weaker than last year as a whole. But you always have some guys emerge. I mean, there's no way I'd be talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire at this point a year ago anywhere close, right? So, you'll have some guys emerge, and I think Journey Brown, Javion Hawkins, Jerome Ford could be guys like that.
Now, Breece Hall draft eligible?
He's going to be a true sophomore.
Oh, sure. Okay. Too bad. He's a stud. He's another guy from Iowa State. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think it's going to be a bad year for Breece Hall. I mean, they're replacing 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. It's going to be a tough year for that Iowa State offense. So not that he's bad, but I think it's going to be really tough for him to get going this year. So if the production's down, then don't get too worried.
Okay. Now, Kylan Hill. He didn't opt out, did he? Is he playing?
Yeah, he's playing.
What's your thoughts on Kylan Hill?
He's kind of interesting. I have him a little bit lower. Being in Mississippi State, it's actually a really intriguing situation, right? Because you have the new offense that's coming in there. And it's going to be very pass heavy, right? KJ Costello, the quarterback that was at Stanford, transferred, and this is Mike Leach, who was at Washington State, who made Max Borghi, another guy that's eligible that people like a lot because he catches a lot of passes. Well, now Kylan Hill's going to play that role. That's not really what he does, right? I mean, he's a tough downhill runner who can catch, and he's going to catch a lot of passes this year. So I want to see him in that role, and I think he could be one of those guys that ends up being a third-day pick in the NFL draft. But we like the name. He's someone that has production in the SEC. And if he gets to a good situation, it could be good.
Okay. All right. Now let's move on to wide receivers, and this is going to be the belle of the ball for the second year in a row. Starting with a few studs from Alabama who, a few years ago you'd think that they wouldn't be able to be mentioned in the same sentence as Ruggs or Judy. Or maybe you did because you're ahead of the game. But a person like me, I thought Judy, Ruggs, then Waddle and Smith. But now it seems like Waddle and Smith are mentioned in the same breath. So why don't you tell us about those cats?
I mean, it's crazy to think that Alabama's going to produce 4 first-round receivers in 2 years. I mean, that's a feat for anyone. And this is, Alabama. I remember thinking about them as a smash mouth great team, but
and they all played on the same field together. Like, it's not just guys replacing each other. Like, their D-line, like, one guy gets drafted and the next guy goes and takes his place. So it's like you didn't really get to see, Daron Payne and Quentin Williams. But these guys were all on the field at the same time, which is pretty damn impressive.
And I think, to me, what's impressive, too, is like Jerry Jeudy didn't lead that team in receiving last year. Henry Ruggs didn't lead that team in receiving last year. It was Devonta Smith, who could have declared this past season. I think decided to go back, figuring he was going to be kind of the third Alabama receiver in that pecking order, might be out of the first round. But there's a real possibility that NFL teams, especially with the shortened season and who knows what's going to happen, are going to really love Devonta Smith. 1,700 yards in the SEC. Like, that doesn't happen. Julio Jones, I think did it. Like, AJ Green never did that. Like Jamar Chase, Julio Jones, and Devonta Smith. Like, those are the receivers that have done it. That's production against really good talent. I actually kind of like Jalen Waddle more. Devonta Smith is kind of the Jerry Jeudy-esque, really good route runner, good hands. He has some good athleticism, really sinks his hips well, stays loose, gets off the line well. Jalen Waddle was more of the Ruggs kind of guy. I mean, he has the electric speed, the 4.3 speed. He's smaller, gets down the field. I think Jalen Waddle is actually better than Ruggs in terms of running short routes and taking those and turning those into something. So I think he's a little bit better of a route runner than Ruggs was. Maybe not quite as fast, but I think Waddle's someone who's going to really excel this year. So crazy to see 2 Alabama receivers at the top. And then, of the guys that are going to play this year, I think there's kind of a glut of players in that late first, early second, maybe into the third round, top 100 kind of piece. So it's a deep class. Seth Williams from Auburn is someone that I like a lot. Big, wins those jump balls, really physical player. And, he's playing in an offense that Gus Malzahn, I don't think, has really tailored his offense well to the personnel that is there. And, Bo Nix, a quarterback, had some ups, had some downs, but Seth Williams is the guy. I mean, Gus Malzahn's offense uses 2 receivers. That's it. So I think Seth Williams is definitely a name to know. The North Carolina offense is really good, right? Sam Howell, the quarterback, was a true freshman last year, stud, and they have 2 receivers that are going to get drafted. Diami Brown is the better of the 2. I think he's someone that could slip into the first round, probably more of an early second round pick. Really, really good footwork, and someone that just understands how to extend, catch the ball, and turn and run. Just very quick. He's a player. I think if you haven't been watching North Carolina, even with some of the Mac Brown and some of the news last year, I think it's an offense you need to watch because him and Daz Newsome's the other guy that are legitimate NFL prospects. A couple players I like: Chris Olave from Ohio State. He's going to forever be remembered as a guy that ran the wrong routes against Clemson in the playoff game and caused that interception at the end. I'm an Ohio State alumni, so I was in tears. But look, he's talented. He produces, gets off the line really quickly, good explosion. I think he's someone that NFL teams are going to like more than like the Twitter scouting community. That he has athletic ability, he has production in the Big Ten, and look, I mean, they're losing at Ohio State. They're losing over 120 targets this year. So there's a lot more that could go to him if the Big Ten plays. And then Terrace Marshall at LSU, with Jamar Chase opting out. Terrace Marshall's going to take that role. He's a player I really like coming out of high school. Just knows how to play receiver. Good extension, catches the ball away from his body. I mean, he's a guy. Every third pass he caught was a touchdown last year. Which is insane. I mean, insane. That LSU offense was nuts. But, about a third of his catches were touchdowns last year. So, when he touches the ball, he can go to the house. He was hurt for a bit last season. So expect, like, big production out of him and then him to really boost up as a name to know. And then I'm going to go back to Louisville. with Tutu Atwell. Shatarius Atwell is probably a player that not a lot of people know. Now he's like 160 pounds soaking wet, super tiny, right? But he's one of the most explosive playmakers that I've ever seen in college football. When you're playing against ACC competition, some good defenses, some bad defenses. He's someone they use in a variety of ways: reverses, throwing screen passes, throwing down the field. You get the ball in his hands, he makes things happen. I think he's someone that the analytics community really loves because he's fast. He has big production. He kind of checks all those boxes. Did it as a freshman, so he's someone to know. And then my sleeper for this class is someone I don't think anyone's talking about. His name's Braden Johnson for Oklahoma State, right? Tylan Wallace is there. He's going to be a good prospect, a very good prospect.
He's a dude.
And go higher.
Talking about him.
Yeah, I'm excited to see a full season from Tylan Wallace. But I'm telling you, Braden Johnson, when I was watching kind of some of the late Tylan Wallace stuff, I mean, he jumped out. He really came in the last 3 games. He's another 4.3 speed guy, but's bigger, long strider. Moves really quick. He's someone that I think is going to be good. And I'll make kind of a hot take, bold prediction. I think Oklahoma State wins the Big 12 this year. I mean, I think they're going to be better than Oklahoma. I think they're going to be better than Texas. And so I think that offense is going to have to run well for that to happen.
Okay, that is a bold prediction. I like that. Now, is Ohio State, they're playing this year?
So possibly. So the Big Ten's kind of in flux right now, but it seems that the Big Ten wants to play later than everyone else, right? So maybe after Thanksgiving, maybe in October they'll start. I think the Big Ten's going to play at some point this season. We'll see if it happens. I think what they're going to do is wait and see what happens with all these other teams that start in September. And I think the Big Ten will decide from there. But they got to get their stuff together. So it's possible that the Big Ten plays. So I included Big Ten players in these lists because of that possibility.
Now, if they did that, I'm sure they would bypass playoffs, but they would still have Big Ten. They'd be able to be in the playoffs still?
If what they did with the FCS is any reflection, I think that they would actually probably push back the playoff if there was enough time, and maybe have the Big Ten, and if Pac-12 wants to as well, play a shortened schedule and be included.
Well, there is a month between the last game and the playoffs. So I mean, they could essentially. That's 2 weeks right there, and they could still get a 2-week break. But I guess they'll probably be more than 2 weeks after the start of the college football. But that's 2 weeks right there that they could, use. But all right, let's move on to tight ends. This class is actually pretty solid. A guy that I like from BYU. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Matt Bushman.
Yeah, I like Matt Bushman.
Well, he just ruptured his Achilles, so
yeah,
I think
that's what I was
he's done, man.
Yeah,
is that what he said?
That's a shame. Yep. But all right, so going from that depressing news, why don't you enlighten us with some stud tight ends here?
Yeah, no, we never need to thin out the tight end rankings, right? Like we never need less tight ends.
I'm not a great analyst of tight ends in college football because I liked that cat from USF last year. I was real high on him too, and he fell off the map. I can't even think of his name now.
Yeah.
What the hell? I'm gonna have to think of his name right now.
I think I drafted him in one of our leagues too, and I think I try to just shun that memory out. So
Mitchell Wilcox, he
got
hit in the face with a ball at the combine, and doing the the gauntlet. He got nailed right in the face, and that kind of was the. It's where he bottomed out. So go ahead. I need your help with college tight ends.
Don't worry. This class will redeem. I mean, last year's class was hot garbage, to be honest with you. I mean, it was bad. Sure, we all like a couple guys, but I'm not expecting much. This class, I'm expecting a lot. My top guy is Brevin Jordan, the tight end from Miami. He's probably most people's third, but I think he has the upside to be a dominant tight end that I don't know if the other two guys do. So, I think Brevin Jordan is a player that when he was single covered, when Miami actually put him out in the slot or, let him in line, run down the field, he just could not be stopped. I mean, Florida State didn't know what to do with him. He's someone that can high point the football. He's such a big athletic body. His suddenness is out of this world, so he's not going to block. Don't make him block. And that's why most people have him down the list. But as a pass catcher for fantasy, give me the guy that's going to catch the ball, right? That's what I want. Whereas the other two guys I think can do both. Pat Fryermuth from Penn State, rock solid, very, very good blocker, and he's someone a lot of people like to try to compare to Rob Gronkowski, but I don't think he's quite in that class of athleticism. But I mean, he finds the hole in the zone. He is always open. Linebackers really struggle to line up with him and jam him or get physical with him. Pat Fryermuth almost always wins in these one-on-one battles. And to me, that's not something you find in a tight end a lot, and he's done it for years. So that's a win. And then Kyle Pitts from Florida maybe is the player that could be kind of like the Mike Gesicki, put him in the slot. That's what Florida did a lot with him. He's a good crackback blocker and is a really tough player. Great body control. He catches almost everything. The quarterback there, Kyle Trask, struggled at times, and Kyle Pitts bailed him out a lot. So he kind of really came on late, but he's a player that those are kind of the big three. I think all three could be first-round picks. Maybe Brevin Jordan falls because of the blocking ability, but I think all those guys are top 50 guys. And I think there's two more that have a shot at the top 100. Brant Kuithe from Utah, someone that's getting a little more publicity, but still isn't out there. He's another great two-way player, really good blocker, really good pass catcher. He's great. He's kind of that he reminds me of Jason Witten a lot. Go to the Cowboys there.
Dallas needs a tight end, man. Well. Not according to some of us, but
yeah, we'll see if Blake Jarwin does. But
right.
But I mean, he reminds me of Jason Witten a lot, right? A good blocker, really good at that stick route, can kind of sit in the zone or take off. He does really well with that. So I'm excited to see him this year. And then Charlie Kohler, talking about Iowa State and Breece Hall. He's a player that Brock Purdy kind of looked to as a bailout for Iowa State. I'm a little scared he's going to block more this year with that offensive line being rotated out. But he's a player that has soft hands. Could be a 4th or 5th round pick, and maybe develop into that. And then my sleeper, I got to throw a small school guy in somewhere.
We need this year's Adam Troutman.
So my guy Zach Davidson from Central Missouri. I'm really excited about him, and he's someone I haven't heard much publicity on, but he has a little bit of that Adam Troutman ability. I don't think he's not as dominant. Central Missouri is a little higher class than Dayton was, but Zach Davidson is a player that his leaping ability, I think he's going to have one of the best vertical leaps of any tight end in this class. Is out of this world. He's so good at tracking the football, and definitely is a man amongst boys. That's what I want to see from the small schoolers. So I'm excited for him. I think it's a good tight end class. If you're in a tight end premium or a 2 tight end league, as I have with Sheps, then you're going to need some of these guys.
Heck yeah. All right. Now let's finish off with this is I said the running backs had the juice and the wide receivers were the belle of the ball, but the QBs, these are the ones that are going to be coming hot off the press. And I know there's 2 at the top of this class that everybody knows, and there's one who everyone's going to know by the time we get to November, December. So why don't you start with Trevor and Justin and then introduce Trey?
All right. Yeah, I mean, look, this is as good a top 2 as you can get. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. I think he's probably the best quarterback prospect since Peyton Manning. I think he could be the best quarterback prospect since John Elway. I think it's possible. I think we can debate that. But, I mean, to come in as the number 1 quarterback at a high school, which that usually isn't the guy that's up here, right? And just dominate from day one, win a national championship as a freshman. And, as a sophomore, get there again. And now as a junior, be the guy that's trying to rally all these conferences to play. I mean, you can't get much better. He's as good a prospect as I've seen. Just such a natural feel for the game. You know, of reading defenses. He makes things look really easy.
Sorry,
I'm not going to go that far.
Do you see if you're not watching the show, then Justin hit us with a little. You know, we got these little blurbs at the bottom of our YouTube streams here, and Justin hit us with a good one. It's Trevor Lawrence greater than sign John Elway. You heard it here first.
Ooh, I'm not going to go that far, but
Shane said it. Shane said it.
Look, as a prospect, he's the best since, perhaps. I mean, John Elway was as good as you're going to get as a prospect. But, I mean, what Trevor Lawrence does so well is, you know, he can go through progressions. He's shown that he can do that. He throws receivers open. He makes his whole team better. And then that game against Ohio State in the playoffs last year, I think, is what took him to this almost kind of godlike prospect status. Because the one question was, well, in today's NFL, you need athleticism, right? Can he run? And then he runs for a 70-yard touchdown. He's running all over the field.
Beautiful, I mean, like a gazelle, just gracefully galloping down the field.
How do you stop him? There's not really a way to stop him.
Jaguars will stop him.
What's that?
So get the Jaguars drafting him. That'd probably stop him.
Let's not go there right now. We don't need to go there.
Like he will make that franchise into a Super Bowl contender if he goes there. So
Justin, you need to throw in down there now. Trevor Lawrence greater than sign Mark Brunell.
Oh, come on now, he's a man.
That's an easy one. But I think Justin Fields from Ohio State is right there. Right, these two guys were the top two quarterback prospects coming out of high school, both from Georgia. You know, Justin Fields going to Georgia, then transferring to Ohio State after Jake Fromm, for whatever reason, got chosen to play over him, which was a massive mistake. And, you know, all Justin Fields did last season was win every game until he got to the playoffs, right? And he was one pass away, maybe one good route by Chris Olave away from going to the national championship. You know, and look, he has some issues. I mean, Ohio State's offense was really built on tempo. So, you know, there's just things we haven't seen him do. I really haven't seen him in terms of ball placement really have to throw them those tight coverages. He's not asked to do that. But he has the athletic ability. He has the toughness. He has the arm. Both these guys have rocket arms, not just down the field, but to get the ball 10 yards down the field. I mean, on a crossing route. I mean, it gets there within seconds. That's not a question. And I think his vision really developed as time went on. I think he got better. You know, he got injured, kept playing through it. And maybe that was causing some issues late. But I think these two guys are number one, number two. In the NFL draft next year. And if whoever's not saying that is wrong, you know, sure, team need might get thrown in, but I think these are the guys. Now, you mentioned Trey Lance, the quarterback from North Dakota State. You know, I like Trey Lance a lot. I mean, the guy to have 28 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, and I don't care if you're playing at the you know, the Little Sisters of the Poor, that those stats are really good, right? Who you're playing against. That's hard to do, you know, and so Trey Lance is obviously a small school prospect.
North Dakota State.
But North Dakota State is the best of the small schools, right? I mean, they're at the top. So, you know, he's playing against good competition. Like this year, we would have had him against Oregon. And that's really what we wanted to see. That's what I wanted to see. What's Trey Lance going to do against Oregon? That game's gone. So we don't get to see it anymore, and that's really disappointing to me. I think Trey Lance is good. I don't think he's on the level of Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields yet. I think the people putting him above Justin Fields are, you know, number 3, top 5 pick, not there yet. You know, we really need to see another year. We're not going to get to see that. They canceled the season. He's going to get to play one game against, you know, Central Arkansas. I'm not sure it's going to help in the evaluation.
He's not a senior, right? So he can't play at the Senior Bowl.
No, so he's a redshirt sophomore, and
That's
from
terrible.
what I'm hearing,
that would be huge for him.
Yeah, he's probably going to go back to school. You know, that's what I'm hearing. He's probably going to go back to school, get his degree, right, and then hey, you could be the top guy in a year. You know, get to play another full season. Maybe they try to pull a game out of their hat that they can get against a big school. Next year they don't have one scheduled, but so we'll see. Money talks, and maybe if the draft advisory board's right, but he's a guy that can run. I mean, electric athlete. He has some of that Lamar Jackson in him. I mean, you look at the national championship game that he played in. He only threw for 90 yards. That's it, right? He ran for 200 yards. So now, to me, that might not be a great thing. I'd like to see him, in the championship game throw for 200 yards, but he has that ability too. I think he needs some work on. I think his arm strength is above average. I don't think it's exceptional. I think he needs a little more ball placement work. He's young. He had 1 year of experience and, didn't really have too much practice time before that. So, look, if he comes out as a first-round pick, it's very possible teams need quarterbacks. I think especially with this season, if we don't see other quarterbacks play, he could do that. But I think he's definitely in that top 100. And I think he might go back to school and end up contending for the top quarterback in 2022.
Okay. Who's the next cat?
So I have like three more guys that I like that they need a season. I mean, they need to put together a good season. I don't think there's anyone else that I'm like, he's a first round pick. But Tanner Morgan from Minnesota. I think we saw Tyler Johnson kind of fall in the draft last year. Rashad Bateman, who opted out, is a beast. But I think Tanner Morgan actually, made Tyler Johnson a lot. A really good release, quick. It's consistent. He has a really good, football intelligence. I think he was a big reason why Minnesota was as good as they were last season. So I think if he puts that together again, especially without his top two receivers from last year, then people are going to start talking about him as the reason that Minnesota's offense is so good. He moves up. Kyle Trask, quarterback at Florida. His story is really interesting. He started on the freshman team in high school, and then De'Ara King came in and beat him out in high school. So Kyle Trask didn't start a game for his sophomore year, his junior year, or his senior year in high school. He played, but he didn't start. De'Ara King was the guy. So he actually got to Florida off of camps. And, when the quarterback there went down, Kyle Trask stepped in, and, man, he his footwork's all over the place. Technique. He obviously needs experience, but he has the physical tools, and he has a year, an offseason to develop that and get in. So if he does really well, if he can win in the SEC, I mean, the sky's the limit for Kyle Trask, and he could be. I don't want to say he's going to be this year's Joe Burrow, but he could be that kind of player that we're like, whoa, where's this guy last year, right? He could really develop. And then Brock Purdy, the Iowa State quarterback. We've talked about Iowa State a bit. Another guy that can run, a good athlete, and I think he has some juice to him. Really plays with poor receiver play. He has Breece Hall and Charlie Kohler, and a lot. The pressure was on him all the time, and he performed. So I think he's someone maybe the community's a little bit higher on than the NFL probably will be. But I think he's someone that has some ability. If he can take that team and do good things, I like it. And then a sleeper for me is Chase Garbers from Cal. I hope the Pac-12 plays this year because I like to see him. I thought he was really dynamic, as solid footwork, really drives the football, very consistent. He's someone that, Cal, not a great offense last season. He kind of made a lot of things happen for them and score some points. So he's a guy not a lot of people are talking about, I think could end up being a name to know.
All right. So before we talk, we're going to talk about some college players that opted out. We're going to wrap up with that. But before we do that, I want to stick with the guys that are playing. I pulled up some Heisman Trophy betting odds that I have on a site that I use. So they might not be exactly the same as Vegas, but I'm sure they're pretty similar. So I'm going to read off the odds, and then I'm not going to tell you which ones I took, so you're not jaded to help make me feel good that I'm going to win some money. And then after you tell me who are a few good bets, then I'll tell you which ones I took. So, and the guys will be able to acknowledge that because I noted it on the show doc. So they'll know that I'm not just making it up. So here we go. Trevor Lawrence is plus 200. And I'm going in order. And then after like plus 1,400, I just picked a few names, because there's tons of more players than the ones I listed here. But Trevor Lawrence was the top plus 200. Spencer Rattler was the second at plus 900. Then it was De'Ara King at plus 1,400, Miles Brennan at plus 1,400, Sam Ehlinger at plus 1,400, Jamie Newman plus 1,600, Mac Jones plus 1,600, Chuba Hubbard plus 2,000, Sam Howell plus 2,000, and then Najee Harris plus 3,000. +2,000. So tell me three or four of these guys that you think, throw some money on and see what happens.
Don't throw money on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's probably going to win it, but +200, it's not worth it. Don't do that. But probably my picks. I think Sam Ehlinger is a good pick for Texas. I know I predicted Oklahoma State would win the Big 12, but if Texas gets going, they have some really good receivers there. I mean, Ehlinger is he's a much better college player than NFL prospect, but he's one of those guys that I think could, if Texas is undefeated, like he's going to win the Heisman. So to me, those are the kind of players that you want to bet on, and +1,400 are pretty good odds. I think Chuba Hubbard is a good pick. If Oklahoma State, wins the Big 12, like I said, he'll be up there. He's kind of the big name. I mean, maybe you could throw $2 on Spencer Sanders too if you want to. He's probably plus like 6,000. I think if that comes to fruition, that's good. And then my third one's probably Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell is the best sophomore quarterback in the nation. Him and Keaton Slovis for USC. If North Carolina beats Clemson and wins the ACC, you can tell me Sam Howell's not going to be a Heisman contender? Like he is. So I think that's worth betting at the +2,000 mark. I mean, that's probably where I'm gonna after the show, I'm gonna toss $5 on Sam Howell to win the Heisman.
All right, I like that. So the guys that I went with: D'Eriq King down in Miami, Sam Ehlinger in Texas, Chuba Hubbard, Oklahoma State, and then Najee Harris. Just because there's something about an Alabama running back holding up the Heisman Trophy that makes me feel warm inside. So that's where I went. All right, we're gonna wrap up the show with college players opting out that are draft eligible. We got a few names here, and you're gonna give us a little bit of a breakdown on these cats, what we should look for, because all we're gonna have is last year's film. If they're seniors, we're gonna have the Senior Bowl if they go, and then the Combine. So this might be the most analysis we are gonna get until then. So we're gonna start with Kenneth Gainwell, the running back from Memphis.
I like Kenny Gainwell. He's actually my number 3 running back in this class, behind Etienne, behind Hubbard. I think Gainwell is what you want in a postmodern NFL running back, in a guy that's an elite pass catcher, that knows how to make players miss, that is really hard to tackle. And yeah, he's not running between the tackles all the time, but Memphis is a running back factory for the NFL, right? I mean, they're starting to really become that. To get these players out of Memphis, Darrell Henderson, Antonio Gibson. I think Kenneth Gainwell is the next one, and I have him really high. I mean, I think now opting out, he's probably going to fall to the third day. I mean, probably be a 4th round pick, kind of that Nyheim Hines category. I think if he played, he would have went higher. So could end up being kind of a fantasy steal, I think, if he gets in a good situation as a pass catching back.
All right, the next cat we have on here is Kennedy Brooks from Oklahoma. He moved up the depth chart, and he got another Oklahoma back to head out to Ohio State. So tell us about this cat.
It's interesting because he really had a shot to put up 3 1,000-yard seasons for Oklahoma, which never happens. And opting out won't do that. He's not super athletic. I don't think he's a great NFL prospect. He's one of those guys that I would have said that you probably shouldn't opt out. You probably should get more stats and have the NFL be like, oh, this guy really produced more than anyone else has. That's why we should pick him. I think he's going to be a late-round pick. I don't think he's super dynamic. Trey Sermon that went to Ohio State and transferred. I don't think he's anything too special either. Oklahoma just really who knows who's going to play running back for them? Who knows who's going to play receiver for them? It's going to be a hard year. New quarterback.
They'll find somebody. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, they got 5-star receivers out the wazoo, but and Seth McGowan, the freshman, coming in is pretty good. But I think it might be a tough year. I don't think Kenny Brooks is anything special as a prospect, though. I think he's going to be a 6th, 7th round pick.
And Trey Sermon was the back that I was talking about that Kennedy Brooks was splitting carries with, and Trey Sermon headed out to the Ohio State University. All right, this next guy is a wide receiver. He is a stud. He's an animal in the weight room. I know he's a little guy, but he throws up big weight. Look him up on Twitter. You could see some videos of him hang cleaning and squatting massive weight. And that's Rondale Moore, wide receiver from Purdue. I think this guy is everything everybody thought Jalen Reagor was. This guy is. So tell us about him.
I mean, Rondale Moore, you go back and watch that freshman season and you see him dominate at Purdue and dominate the Big Ten, dominate Ohio State. Yeah, he has that ability. I mean, he's electric. He catches anything. I mean, he was getting passes way over his head and 2 yards to his right, and he was finding a way to catch them and keep running and keep moving. I mean, if you watch just that year and say, hey, I'm drafting him in the top 10, right? Now, will the NFL do that? I think he's going to be the test case of all this, because will the NFL do that? Had the injury last year, only played a couple games, opts out this year. I think it's going to just take an NFL team that's willing to kind of take a risk. I don't think they like not seeing guys for a more, they want to see guys for 2 years, for 3 years. He is a stud.
Philly will take him. Philly will take him, line him up next to Jalen Reagor. He's got the injury concerns that they like. He's got the vertical speed that they like. He fits right in there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think he's going to be, I think he's going to be a top 50 pick. I think he'll probably be a first round pick after workouts. But it wouldn't surprise me if he's the third or fourth receiver off the board when push comes to shove, just because NFL teams, a lot of them are still stuck in that old past. But I mean, go just watch him as a freshman. The dude's incredible. Man, it sucks just not being able to see him this year.
Well, if he's going to be the third wide receiver off the board, the next guy we're about to talk about is probably going to be the number 1 wide receiver off the board. That's Jamar Chase, wide receiver from LSU. He was supposed to take on the number 7 jersey, and it was a big deal. I was looking forward to it, and then he goes and opts out for the season. So I'm a little bit disappointed, but he's a stud. He did work last year and won them a national championship. So what are your thoughts on Jamar Chase?
I mean, there's not much to say. Like that season was an all-time great receiver season last year. So it's one thing to be Rondale Moore as a freshman and have, look good. It's one thing as Jamar Chase to win a national title, go wall to wall and put up almost 2,000 yards in the SEC and score, dozens of touchdowns. He's such a good player. His off the line, I mean, I don't know. I can't think of a guy that is better off the line of scrimmage, just an explosion in how he uses his feet to fake out corners at the line. Like, you wonder how he gets this separation. He's just wide open, and it's because he just beat the guy right at the line of scrimmage and made him look foolish. He did that consistently every game, and he has the deep speed. He has the quickness. He has the acceleration. He's almost a perfect wide receiver prospect. He's a shorter Julio Jones, and there's not much higher praise than that.
Now, I'm a LSU fan. Not like a diehard. I like, a few teams in college. College is a little more fun with that for me, when NFL is like live or die with the Cowboys. But at college, I like teams. But though I am an LSU fan, I respect teams of the past. And I heard a lot of people say, and older guys that I thought knew better, say that this LSU team was the best roster in college football history. Would you take Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, or would you take Andre Johnson and Reggie Wayne, or Andre Johnson and Santana Moss, or Reggie Wayne and Santana Moss? Which two in college would you take?
Man. I mean, that's tough, right? Because I think for
throwing
a season,
Clinton Portis and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Would you take those and Clinton Portis, or those and Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
I would take Miami's receivers and running backs, right? I would take that, but you're missing the most important position, right?
Ken Dorsey.
I mean, put Joe Burrow in there, it's not a question. Like, LSU is dominant.
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if it was the chicken or the egg when Joe Burrow. When we watch,
it can be the chicken and the egg. Sometimes it's both.
Right. What I'm saying, we're going to find out what Joe is. I mean, he looks great. All right. Well, I believe it. I believe it. But I didn't think Ken Dorsey was a stud, but I thought he could play in the NFL. I thought Zach Mettenberger could play in the NFL. And both of them didn't look too good. But I'm getting us off topic. I think that was an important question.
Yeah.
Next guy we got here is I'm gonna just name the next 2 wide receivers before we move on. I got a linebacker here, Rashad Bateman and Sage Surratt. These are 2 dudes. Oh, also Warren Jackson. So 3 wide receivers, all draft eligible, all opted out. give me a quick breakdown on the three of them.
Rashad Bateman, clear number 2 receiver in this class. I mean, he's a downright stud. He made that Minnesota offense really run. I think him and Tanner Morgan hooked up. I mean, he's a guy that has 4.4 speed. That's a big strider, physical at the line of scrimmage. I mean, one of the best guys that in terms of being press coverage that I've seen. And you add in, downfield ability, big hands. I mean, he's going to be a top 10 pick as well. I think he's not quite to Jamar Chase's level for me, but he's not that far off, and I think that's saying something. So I definitely understand him and Chase opting out. I mean, they should have. Sage Surratt, I probably would have said, hey, you should probably play. Now he's put up good stats. I mean, the quarterback left there, Jamie Newman, transferred to Georgia. So I think maybe that's part of the issue. He has good production. He's pretty fast. But the offense just wasn't quite built for him and Jamie Newman, and I just don't know if he's an NFL starter. I think could be a good number 3, number 4, have some production.
He's going to be the guy. Like I loved Alan Lazard when he came out. I loved Kelvin Harmon when he came out, and I love Sage Surratt. So I just have a thing for wide receivers that the NFL doesn't really love. Now they want guys that can separate. And unless you got a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers who can just thread the needle completely, but Sage Surratt, he's a guy I like him. I like the way he plays.
Yeah, because he wins, right? I mean, he wins those one-on-one battles. He doesn't need separation. But like you said, the NFL seems to be kind of past that. And kind of a similar player, not as good as Sage Surratt, is Warren Jackson, opted out at Colorado State. He's the big dude. I mean, he's 6'4", 220, had a heck of a year at Colorado State. Not a school year thinking, oh, you're going to have, a big-time receiver. But they actually had 2 really good receivers there. So he's another one of those players. It doesn't separate a ton, but super physical, boxes you out. Like you just can't get through him. So I think he'll be one of those late rounders that isn't super fast, but big, but worth talking about. I think he'll get drafted.
All right. This next cat is a defensive guy. I think he's the best player in the draft. That's not Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. And that's Micah Parsons from Penn State. I'm about to pull out my autographed mini helmet to show everybody while you go ahead and give analysis.
I mean, Micah Parsons is really good. What's intriguing to me about him is that I think he's kind of a better pass rusher. And I mean, they play him in the middle because he's so athletic, goes sideline to sideline so well. Like you want the brainiac, right, to be your middle linebacker, the Mike, and so he's playing kind of out of position and still one of the best defensive players in the country. And I think NFL teams are going to want to do the same thing. We have a player that is just so smooth. And when a running back gets a handoff to the outside, Micah Parsons is just there. When there's a stunt called and it's a third down, I mean, Micah Parsons is in the quarterback's face. Like I rarely see him just get beat. I think I was actually a little bit lower on him and watching him again. I think it was a bad day or something. And I think he's a top 5 player. I probably put him, 3rd or 4th in the class. So not quite there. I think Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle from Oregon's a little better, but look, I think he's the best defensive player in this class. And I think Gregory Rousseau, the defensive end from Miami, also opted out. He's up there too. I mean, it's a pretty good defensive class at the top.
If you go, Chris Godwin won me over in a bowl game against USC. Disney Justin's killing it tonight with the little tags. He's killing it, man. But Chris Godwin against USC, I forget what bowl that was, just went off. I knew right, this guy's a dude. He's doing against top competition, big game, big time players make big time plays in big time games. And Micah Parsons, I don't know what bowl game it was last year, but he had 15 tackles, 3 or 4 sacks. The dude was everywhere. Just, I wish I had the bowl game in mind so I could tell you, so you can go back and watch that film, but you could easily Google, what bowl game did Penn State play in last year, and then go to YouTube and type in Micah Parsons versus, whoever they played, because he absolutely annihilated everybody on the offensive side of the ball.
He was just a monster. Like you watch him. I think it was the Cotton Bowl. Was the game. You go watch him. Like he won a defensive MVP. He can cover like too. Like here's a guy that is making sacks and tackling running backs, and you put him on a tight end, and some of the top tight ends in the country in the Big Ten, they can't even get a look. So crazy.
Yeah, it was the Citrus Bowl, and it was against Kentucky. And I'm just going on. He had 8 tackles and 5 assists. So I guess I exaggerated it a little bit, but maybe I'm thinking of another game. There was a game where he had
that was 2 years ago. I think Cotton Bowl was last year. 2019 was the Cotton Bowl.
Okay, so whatever. So okay, I'm sorry. So just there's a game out there where he annihilates them. You can find it. Just do your research. But
15 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 3 tackles for loss.
There we go. Shane, you backed me up. You make me not sound like a raving idiot. All right, man. So this was great. We had some NFL news talk, and then we got into some college football because college football. What's the game to watch this weekend? Why don't you tell us that? Let the listeners know what game should they be watching this weekend.
Yeah, look, there's not much. I would watch Arkansas State against Memphis. I know we don't have Kenneth Gainwell.
Okay,
but I think Memphis still has some prospects. Arkansas State has a couple guys on the offense. And then, Monday, the 7th, I think we have BYU playing, which I was hoping for Matt Bushman, and we were not going to get that. But not a great weekend to start, but we'll get there. We'll get there by late September, have some SEC coming.
Hey, can I ask you guys a quick listener question? At Coach Sheps tweeted in. He's in the middle of Sleeper Wire Pro AM, and with Steve Spack, Marcus Grant, Anthony Reiner from the Fantasy Fam, and he went. It's super flex, and he's got Lamar, Dak, Galladay, Odell, Keenan Allen. I think Shane knows. Everybody knows. A little light on running back with Ingram, Montgomery, Zach Moss. Got my tight ends, and I'm coming up in the 13th round, or Coach Sheps is coming up in the 13th round here. And guys he likes, Damian Harris, Dallas Goedert, Van Jefferson. Those are all, and then also I was thinking possibly Ryan Fitzpatrick and just get the 3rd quarterback. But what are your thoughts on that? Or even Joshua Kelly, throw him in there. But what do you guys think? What should we do?
I would probably, I may take Fitzpatrick. Just lock up that 3rd quarterback. I think is important. I think value wise, probably Goddard in a tight end premium. But that's my thought.
Justin,
I'll go against the grain. I'll go with Van Jefferson because I think he has an opportunity to unseat the wide receiver 3 there.
Nate, what do you think?
As much as I like Goddard and Van Jefferson, I think that you may need some running back help. And I think, everybody's saying it's about Damian Harris, but it's kind of something we're not real sure about yet. But, like I said, with the way your draft went as stellar as everything else is, I think the running back may be lacking, which is usually how my drafts are. So,
yeah, all right. Well, I'm up. Let's see who picks. I'm up in a pickle. Coach Sheps is up in a pickle. So
where did Fournette go?
This was in the other league. I finished that. He went in the 11th, man. Leonard Fournette went in the 11th. I let him get that far. I don't know why.
My 2nd round pick now in the 11th round.
Yeah, well, hey, man.
Patriots are we one. We'll be happy.
Yeah, Patriots or the Bucks. He goes in the Bucks. He's going to take that job. But anyway, I don't want to keep you guys any longer than you need to be. Before we check out, go follow Shane if you don't. If you're listening to us and you don't follow Shane, you're doing it backwards because Shane is we're new. Shane's been around. Shane's been repping, and Shane's been doing work. So it's Shane Hallam at Shane B. Hallam. You can see it, Shane P. You can see it on the bottom here on the YouTube channel. Justin wrote it all up. He works with fakepigskin.com and Draft Site. And as for us, you can find Justin at JustinFF_. You can find Nate at Nate_Dirt19. You can find myself at Coach Sheps, and the show is at Toilets to Titles. Remember, every 50 followers, we're going to be donating $10 to Fantasy Cares, a fantasy site of our choosing. And right now we're at 40, and I believe we're like 40 followers away from hitting 50. Please hit the like button, comment if you can, subscribe if you can. If you're a person who likes to listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Podbeam, Periscope, Spotify. And what we really love is when you guys catch the live stream and you come in and you're commenting and stuff. We like to answer your questions, live. So that's a lot of fun. It makes it a group experience rather than just an us experience. So everybody, I think I speak for the guys when I say we are 1 week closer to football, and we can't wait. Next week will be our first in-season episode of the Toilets to Titles life, I guess. So we are looking forward to that, and we will catch you all later. Justin, what do you have to say to these guys?
Real quick, I want to throw some love out to Jake Trowbridge real quick, at Jake Trowbridge. I'm going to get your tweet on the next episode. We didn't have time to get to it today, but I promised him some love. And speaking of love, everybody just love each other.